Welcome to Talk to Me Baby, the show that believes knowing yourself and living in accordance with who you are is the biggest asset you can possess in life. I'm your host, Emily the Adamas, and today we are going to be talking about how to be unbothered. Before we get into it, please do all of the internet things. Like this video, comment, subscribe. If you're listening to it on a podcasting app, please rate the podcast. It really goes a long way. I'm so grateful that you are here. Let's get into it. What is being unbothered? To me, being unbothered means that you have a sense of sovereignty, steadiness, peacefulness, that you can walk through life experiencing all that life has to offer, both the negative and the positive, and not feel like you are on the back foot, not feel like you are constantly at the mercy of what is happening around you, what people are doing, what they're saying, what they're feeling, the situations you find yourself in are not going to dictate how you feel. Because you have a sense of emotional control, you get to choose how you react to situations, how you view situations. And it doesn't mean that you're always going to be happy go lucky and that you're not going to have bad moments or you're not going to feel negative emotions. But it does mean that you know how to navigate those moments and you know how to move through them so that you don't feel like the world at large is just this walking trigger where any little thing could set you off. And then suddenly now you are having a bad day when you could have had a good day. To me, being unbothered is actually the ultimate freedom because it means that you are not at the mercy of what's going on around you in order for you to feel good because you have such a strong sense of connection with yourself and your own emotions. In a way, you kind of have a separation from what is happening around you. It doesn't mean that you're not engaging with life. You are, and you're going to feel all those human emotions, both the good ones and the sucky ones, but it means that you understand the benefit of them and they give you an opportunity to view things differently. You're not constantly reacting to life because when you are bothered and you're constantly reacting to everything that's going on in your life, it means that you can't actually create because you're too busy reacting to everything. If there's traffic, now suddenly you're going to have a bad day. You get an annoying email and that's it, your afternoon is shot. You get into an argument with your sister and now the whole weekend is ruined. Right? You are losing precious time and you are focused on these circumstances and how they make you feel rather than being able to direct yourself and how you want to feel and have that be the dominating way that you operate in life. How do I want to feel about this? How do I want to view this? How do I want to shift whatever it is that I'm feeling just so I can feel better? That's really where we start on how to become an unbothered person. So let's do small talk. We are going to talk about the 3 stages of when you are bothered. So this is before you are bothered, while you are being bothered, and then after. Because I think it's important to understand how to navigate this so that then you actually end up living unbothered. You can't just suddenly snap your fingers and decide, okay, that's it. I'm not bothered by anything anymore. I don't care anymore, blah, 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 because we all know that that's not true. Right? We've all seen those heated Instagram posts that people make where they're like, that's it. I'm done. I'm cutting out toxic people. I'm not dealing with the shenanigans. I'm setting boundaries, blah, 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 blah. Like, you're going to do that for 5 minutes. And then you're going to fall back into the pattern. The way that we become unbothered is by understanding the bothered. That's really how we do it. And the most important stage of this really is the pre-bothered stage. So what are we doing before we are bothered? Kat, you are being bothersome right now because you are rubbing your face on the mic. I don't know if you guys can actually hear this. I don't really hear it in editing, but he's about to be bothered and so am I. Okay, go. Where the boya? Let's start with before you are bothered. This is about how are we setting the foundation for feeling good in life, period. Okay, not just to the level where you're unbothered, but feeling good as you are moving through life. So, what are those things that you're doing on a daily basis to help you feel good? It doesn't mean that you are going to wake up tomorrow and you're suddenly going to say, I'm going to be happy and that's it, right? What we're looking for is an improvement in your mood slowly and steadily. So, let's just do a quick benchmark. What would you say is your overarching emotional state the majority of the time, right? We all have highs and we have lows. But on an average, would you say that you tend towards emotions like frustration, anger, irritability? Would you say you're kind of neutral in the middle where you're like, it's fine, I'm here, I'm alive, it's okay? Or would you say that you are excited, enthusiastic, joyful, happy? Where are we falling in that spectrum? Because if you are on the side of feeling frustration or irritation, if these are emotions that you feel a lot on your day to day, then you need to build in strategies for you to not feel those things. And the way that we do that is by just trying to feel slightly better. We're not trying to go from 0 to 100. Have you ever been in a bad mood and the people around you are trying to cheer you up and they're like, just get happy? And you're like, just get lost. Like, I don't hear you right now. I'm going to hurt you if you keep talking. You're not in the mental space to be able to go from being in a bad mood to being happy, but you can feel just slightly better. And we do that by, first of all, acknowledging what is it that I'm feeling day to day? What can I do to feel better? There are going to be circumstances in your life that you can't change. You can't just snap your fingers and quit the job that you hate. You can't just move cities when you're unhappy where you are. There are things that take time and things that take preparation. But what you can do is change the way that you think about them and the way that you feel about them. And that will help you eventually feel unbothered. So, what are those things that you're doing on a daily basis? Maybe it's just drinking your coffee and really enjoying it in the morning. A 5-minute meditation. You're going to go for a walk after dinner. You are going to watch a funny video whenever you are feeling low. You are going to listen to music that uplifts you first thing in the morning. What are those things that you can do that are really simple to do that will actually make a difference? And here's the thing. Humans, we like to complicate things. Okay. Sometimes the simplest thing is just putting on the happy music in the morning. I have noticed that when I wake up in the morning and I'm drinking my coffee, if I'm listening to music, my day tends to go better. And it's a very simple thing. And when I'm in a bad mood, I'm like, that's not going to work. But I know that it does work because when I'm doing it, I feel better. Don't let cynicism block you from these little tiny things that everybody has access to, that everybody can do, that actually make a really big difference. I have a list on my notes that I call Funk Blaster. So when I'm in a funk and not the fun, like 1970s music kind, I look at this and I do at least one thing on the list and it makes me feel better. I'm finding it here. Where are you at? Funk Blaster. Here we go. First thing on the list, cuddle cats. Check. Watch Graham Norton show clips. I love Graham Norton. I love his show. It's always fun, lighthearted. People are loose. People are talkative. People are telling fun stories. It's very enjoyable to watch, and his clips always make me feel better. Leave the house. Dance it off. Lift weights. Journal. Call somebody. Play nice jazz music. Light a candle. Sage. Clean out a drawer. Do 10 push-ups. Okay? I also have weirdly, I don't remember writing this on here, watch dogs carrying large stick videos. I think I saw a video of those little like not the wiener dogs. Are they the wiener dogs? The little long stretchy ones. The long stretchy ones. Guys, I'm a cat lady, okay? I don't know anything about dogs. But I watched a video of those little ones. I think they're called dachshunds. Anyway, if you have a dachshund, let me know. Write it in the comment. Show me a picture. But it was a video of dachshunds and they were carrying dachshund. I don't know. Pronunciation is going to haunt me. Dachshunds? I don't know. Guys. I just know that I think those dogs are very cute. And there was a video that I watched of dogs. They were carrying these really massive sticks. Like in some cases, they look like straight up branches. And it's just so funny the way they just walk around carrying them. People are like moving out of the way, like, whoa, okay. It was delightful. It made me laugh. So make yourself a Funk Blaster list because it will help you immediately get into a good mood. That way, when you're in a bad mood, you don't have to think about, well, what should I do right now? Just do one of the things on the list and you will feel just a little bit better. And that is the goal with what we're trying to do in this before being bothered stage. What are we going to do when we're actually bothered? Something happened, it produced a reaction in you, and now you are feeling some kind of emotion. First thing is you're just going to let yourself feel the emotion. So whatever it is, you're going to feel it, you're going to allow it, you're going to let it be, and then you are going to start observing. What just happened? What is it that I'm feeling right now? Because sometimes you can't really tell in the moment what you're feeling. What am I feeling? Is this an emotional trigger or a wound? Or am I actually reacting to what's happening? Because all of us carry triggers. We all do, because we all have childhood trauma. Okay. For a long time, people thought childhood trauma was, these really massive, big, horrible situations that might happen to you growing up. We know now that trauma doesn't have to be this very big, dramatic, tragic thing that happens. It can be simply the fact that you felt like you weren't listened to growing up, that one of your parents left, that your parents worked all the time, they didn't have a lot of time for you, that there were a lot of arguments in your house, that your family moved a lot, that you had bullies in school, that your parents didn't know how to emotionally regulate themselves. I think that's most of us. Okay. Emotional wounding happens in childhood. And then when you're an adult, there might be situations that you just feel this flood of emotion. And what's happening is that you're not really reacting to the situation in front of you. You're reacting to past wounding. So whatever's happening in the present is reminding you of something that happened in the past where you're so emotionally charged that you really feel it in your body. You feel extremely unsafe or really angry or upset. You're very reactive. And it's not because of the situation itself, it's because it is bringing you back to that time when you were a child and you didn't know how to deal with it. And there was nobody there to guide you through that. So, becoming aware in the moment, how am I reacting to things? Is this a trigger? Is this something I want to explore more? Am I just annoyed today? Right? That will help you in the future be less reactive, because once you can understand it, then you can start to process it a little bit easier. What happens is that people find themselves in these emotional reactive states and they don't take the time to go, what was that about? Or why did I feel like that? Or whatever. We tend to just put the blame outside of ourselves. I know I did that for a very long time. It's only in the last 5 years or so that I have really learned how to become unbothered. And it's something that I'm continually working on, because there are days that I'm very bothered. Okay. It's an ongoing process. But when you are looking at the external world and you are blaming the world for how you feel, that's not putting you in a position of power. That's actually very disempowering. And what happens is that you're disempowered in two ways, because number one, you are reacting to everything that is happening in life. And so therefore you're at the mercy of circumstance, and life is going to life, things are going to happen and they're going to be upsetting. So number one, you're already at a disadvantage there. And then number two, what happens is that when we feel reactive and we feel a certain way in the moment, we blame the situation or the circumstance, and we don't take the time to really understand, okay, what was going on here? What's my part in this? What's their part in this? What can I learn about myself here? And unless you can do that and you can separate yourself, you're never going to find that like real separation of being unbothered, where it could be chaotic around you and you still feel good. You can also start to recognize patterns. What are those triggers? What are the topics that tend to be hot button issues for me? What are the kind of circumstances and conversations that create triggers in me? That way you can anticipate next time this happens, you can understand and learn from it, rather than feeling like you're on the back foot and you just have to be reacting to everything that comes your way. Now, let's talk about what to do after you're bothered, right? You've had the emotion, you've felt it, you've created some sense of curiosity. Now, there are basically two things. The first one is understanding why it is that you reacted that way. That means that you're going to dig deep. You're going to look into those triggers. You're going to look into the situation and ask yourself, well, why is it that I'm feeling this way? Maybe as a child, people commented on my appearance a lot. And so people commenting on my appearance now always makes me a little uncomfortable or a little bit nervous. Maybe I reacted because I've been extra hard on myself lately. And so this person making a comment just brought all of that up to the surface. What have I been ignoring? What have I not been addressing? And how is that contributing to the way that I just reacted? A way that you can get to this is, what did I feel? Why did I feel that way? What am I making this mean? Which I think is one of my favorite all-time questions now. What am I making this mean about myself? What am I making this situation mean about myself, about the other person, about what they think, about what they feel, about what I feel? And what does this reveal to me? Because when you can identify what the emotion is, you can identify what the opposite is. So if you felt betrayed, then you know that you want a sense of loyalty. So you can balance that out and you can recognize, okay, what is it that I would want moving forward in the future? That way you understand what it is that you're looking for and what you're striving for. And when you can identify that, you can start to move in that direction instead of just being in this loop of reacting and never really getting anywhere. The second tip for what to do after the bother is to get a really good sense of perspective. And I'm going to tell you how to do that with a story. A long time ago, I was going to Trader Joe's, and the one that I used to go to was on this very busy road, multiple lanes. And you had to turn left to get into the parking lot, and there was no turning arrow. So that meant that you kind of just had to inch forward, wait for a gap in the traffic, or wait for the light to turn yellow for you to be able to make the left. And if somebody from the opposite oncoming direction of traffic was also trying to turn left, it meant that your view was blocked. So I was on the way to Trader Joe's, I was in the turning lane, and the guy in front of me was trying to make the turn, but there was a car in front of him also trying to turn in the opposite direction, and so he couldn't see. But from where I was in the turning lane, I could see. And it was completely clear, right? No cars whatsoever. And so I honked a little tap to let him know, okay, you can go if you want to go because nobody's coming. So he makes the turn. I turn right after. We parked kind of next to each other. He gets out of his car, comes over to my car, knocks on the window. I put the window down, and he says, "Do you want me to get into a car wreck? Do you want me to put myself and my family at risk?" And I'm like, "No, I could just see that it was clear. So I was just letting you know." But he is in a very heightened state. He was not in a rational thinking place to be able to hear what it is that I was trying to tell him. So he was just angry, right? And expressing that anger. And so he walked off, and it was kind of weird. I was rattled by it. And then I just thought, he's going to be dead one day. I know that that sounds morbid, but anytime that you are in that situation and you just need an immediate perspective shift, he's going to be dead one day. You are going to be dead one day. I'm going to be dead one day. Does this parking lot Trader Joe's honking situation merit me reacting negatively, me feeling on edge the rest of the day? No, it does not. It's okay if that's how I reacted or how I felt. But really, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to be dead. It's not going to matter. And the brilliance of looking at life from this perspective is that whenever you are in an altercation or a tense situation or something that's really uncomfortable, whether it's with a stranger or a family member or somebody close to you, you can remind yourself of this. If it's a stranger, you are going to be dead. I don't know you. I'm not going to shed a tear. Have a nice life. If it is a family member, even if it is a very big issue, when they die, that's not what I'm going to be thinking about. When I die, that's not what we're going to be thinking about. That's not the memory that we're going to have associated to that relationship. And even if it is a really big issue and there's a lot of pain and suffering associated, when they die and they re-emerge into the unconditional light and love of God and Source, they're going to be able to see things from a different perspective. They're going to be able to know me on a much more intimate level. They're going to be able to see things from my vantage point, and they're probably going to know that I was right the whole time anyway. I'm only partially kidding. Okay, but it doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. What matters if you got that annoying email? What does it matter that your cousin has different political views than you? It doesn't matter at all because we are on a rock hurtling through space and time. I mean, honestly, when you look at it from that perspective, most things kind of seem trivial, don't they? Use that tactic as well if you are feeling afraid of doing things, not only when you're bothered, because guess what? It doesn't matter if they're going to judge you or if you get rejected or if you fail or who cares? You're going to die anyway. On that cheery note, let's do deep talk, okay? I feel that we are living through a time when people are very bothered. Okay, I don't know if you've noticed out on the internet streets, but people are super bothered about everything. I read this post by Bon Appetit, it was a while ago, about this landlord in New York City and how they stipulated that their tenant could not cook meat because I think the landlord lived above or below something and they could smell the meat cooking. So the listing was only available to people who were vegan or vegetarian. And people were having a field day in the comments. A lot of the comments were hilarious, but people were breaking out into these little arguments. Now, think about the level of botheredness that you probably inhabit in a day-to-day life for you to feel the need to argue with people on the internet about a hypothetical situation that has no bearing in your life whatsoever. Okay. And yet I think that that is the state of the world for a lot of people. Maybe not for you watching this, maybe not for me, but I do think that people are triggered. People are feeling certain things and they're taking this frustration out in other areas. And when you are in that highly reactive state, every little thing is going to set you off. And that means that you don't have peace of any kind because you are walking through life just constantly bumping up against things that are going to make you feel bad. And like we said in the beginning, ultimate freedom is you having control over your emotions and not being bothered by other people, by situations, by circumstances. You being able to process your emotions, feel your emotions, but not allow them to run the show because you have that sense of autonomy in who you are. So other people's opinions don't affect you. Other people's decisions and their actions and whatever they say does not affect you when you are living in an unbothered way. Now, if you need the world to be different in order for you to be happy, then you are always going to be at a disadvantage because the world is not going to acquiesce. Okay. The world is going to do what it's going to do. It's how you react and how you choose to view things that will dictate the level of happiness that you're going to allow in your life. So I think that we need to be careful when we are looking at our external and we're sort of blaming our mood on those things. And I'm not saying that situations can't put you in a bad mood and that you can't feel certain things. Like right now, the cat is making a lot of noise. And before there was a car alarm going off and it was annoying, but I'm rolling with it because I'm here and this is the time that I have to record this episode and show must go on. You know what I mean? That's life in show business, people. So we need to recognize the fact that we are living in a time where people are highly reactive. We're living through a very weird time in history. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we have way more access to information about the stuff that's going on than we ever have before, which means that we have even greater of an opportunity to allow those things to affect us. And from an emotional trigger standpoint, I think that there are a lot of conversations happening about mental health and mental wellness. People are understanding these concepts like childhood trauma to a much greater degree. And I think that that's ultimately beneficial. I will say, however, that I do feel somewhat conflicted with the constant need for trigger warnings about literally everything in life. Because while, yes, it's very thoughtful and conscientious and kind of us to recognize that people have been through serious situations and to be able to try to lessen or minimize somebody's potential pain. So, for example, the other day I was watching lessons in chemistry, and at the beginning of the episode, they said, this episode depicts sexual assault. If you need help, here's a link, that kind of thing. I think that that's a good thing so that people don't feel surprised who might be struggling with that. But I think sometimes we can go to the extreme where we are trying to accommodate for every single person's triggers all of the time. And that's just impossible. It is our responsibility to work through our own triggers and our emotions. We are all like fields filled with landmines. And those landmines are emotional triggers. It is not the world's job to avoid stepping on those landmines. It is your responsibility to deactivate them, to move them, to put up a little fence around it, to put up a little sign and let people know. It is not the world's responsibility to bend to your emotional triggers. It's not your fault that they're there. And you are not responsible for the origin of those triggers. Most likely those triggers happened when you were in childhood, and somebody else or some other circumstance is responsible for the fact that you developed those emotional wounds. But you are responsible for the care of those emotional wounds. And if you are approaching life as in, well, you can't say that or you can't do that because it upsets me because I have this trigger and da 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 da, and you're not doing anything to work through that, and you're not taking your own responsibility in minimizing the impact of that landmine, quote unquote, then you are going to experience a lot of ups and downs from an emotional standpoint because people are going to step on the landmines, whether they're conscious of it or not. And then you're the one that has to deal with that aftermath. And so for you to really feel a sense of control and that you are commanding your emotions, it means that you need to go through that process of looking at what you feel, understanding it, understanding what it is that you want for next time and how you're going to minimize this, how you're going to work through the emotional wounds. So you're not just walking around through life just waiting to be constantly triggered by different situations and by what people are doing and what they're saying. I think being aware of the fact that people have triggers is a very nice thing. And I think that on the one hand, it shows a willingness to be kinder and more accepting towards mental health in general, which I see as a positive thing. I do think, though, that we need to be careful that we don't allow people to identify too much with their victimhood, because that doesn't benefit anybody. And the potential downside to being so concerned with triggers and no trigger warning and this and that is that we end up with stuff like cancel culture, which, if you think about it, is a way to banish the things that upset us and the things that we emotionally can't deal with. Because it means I can't deal with what you think or what you say to the extent that I want you gone. I want you out of my sight. I want you banished from existence. Because if you are here and you are allowed to speak and you're allowed to be and you're allowed to do, I am going to feel bad. That's what cancel culture is. And I don't think it matters what side of the political spectrum you're on. I think free speech is a very important thing. I think it's very important that we continue to foster a sense of openness and for people to be able to share. But cancel culture takes things in a direction that I'm not comfortable with, because it means that then we're not having any space for evolution, for forgiveness, for understanding. We are simply cutting people off at the first sight of any type of trouble. And it's like, we liked you up until that time you said the thing, and then that's it. You're out. You're deplatformed. You're dehumaned. Please go away and never return. And that's not realistic, because you are always going to have things in life that are going to bother you and are going to trigger you, unless you yourself are somebody who is living in a more unbothered state. And then these things don't matter. They just don't affect you. You don't feel such a strong emotional reaction. You can look at life with a sense of curiosity and with a sense of detachment, and you're not at the mercy of what is going on around you and what people are saying. And I think it's important that we recognize and we acknowledge the difficult situations that not only we've gone through, but other people have gone through. And I think it's nice to be cognizant of those things. But I think that we can take it too far, where the situations of our past and our circumstances become our way of viewing ourselves. And if you have painful things from your past and that's not how you want to view yourself anymore, you have the option not to. But when we're catering so much to this idea of our triggers, then it's almost like we lock people in and we box them into the identity of being that person with the trigger, right? I am a blah, blah, blah victim, and this is how I identify myself. Or even with mental health, people who struggle with anxiety. I've experienced anxiety at different points in my life. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's one of the most debilitating feelings ever. But do I want to consider myself to be an anxious person? No, I would rather view myself as a person who occasionally has anxiety, but has mechanisms and ways of coping with it. And I don't consider myself to be an anxious person just because I've felt anxiety in the past. But I do think sometimes in our eagerness to be open and talk about mental health, it's like we almost use them as a label. And like, oh yeah, I'm an anxious person. Oh yeah, I'm a depressed person. And this is just who I am now. Maybe it is right now, but there's a way that you can work through that. And there's a way for you to detach yourself from that view of yourself if that's what you want. You don't have to use those experiences from your past or even the things that you struggle with from a mental standpoint as personality traits. Being unbothered is a wonderful way of being, because it means that you are not reactionary. It means that you are free to create your life and to play with life in a very enjoyable way, rather than feeling like any little situation could set you off, and any little mishap, any altercation with somebody in the parking lot of a Trader Joe's is going to ruin everything, and it doesn't have to. Being able to live in today's day and age and still retain a sense of peace, a sense of who you are, a sense of steadiness, that is true power. I'm Emily de Armas. This has been your episode of Talk to Me Baby, and I will talk to you later.